welcome everybody to Make It Make Sense with Monique Pressley. I'm your host, Monique Pressley. Thanks so much for joining us once again, where we try to do exactly what the title says, make it make sense for you, the areas where you need clarity. What could that be these days? The areas where there's confusion. This country is being led by an author of confusion. Does that sound scriptorial? Anyway, I'm excited to be back with you because we've got lots and lots and lots to discuss. And as I promised to you as we came back from the break, we are drilling down to the things that are most important. Yes, we want to make it make sense, but you don't need me to help you make sense of how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You need us to bring in experts and for me to lean in on my expertise to help you make sense out of the things that matter in our lives in the DMV, where I live and breathe and do my work, and all around the country, wherever you're joining from, or all around the world. It's one of those things where so much is happening at the same time. All of it doesn't matter. We can't cover even everything that does matter, but we're going to do our very level best to keep you informed and to keep you moving forward. If you are watching me right now from IG, come on over to the Monique Pressley channel on YouTube. You are welcome here. I'm going to be looking at comments. I'm going to be commenting back, taking some questions, hopefully, if we have time. So if you're joining from IG, come on over. Have you subscribed to my YouTube channel? If you're watching right now from YouTube, have you subscribed to my YouTube channel? Please click the like button so that we can keep giving you more and more. I would invite you to go back and look at yesterday's show because I don't want to repeat ground. I want to move us forward, even if we're dealing with some of the same stories. One of the things that I talked about yesterday, if I could say to the current president, keep my president's name out your mouth, I would, but I know that he can't help it. Like, the poor baby is obsessed. He's obsessed with President Barack Obama. He's obsessed with the first Black president and with his life and with his success and with all the things about Barack Obama that Donald Trump's always wanted to be and never will be, and just the audacity of all of that swag and all of that likability and all of that brilliance and all of that success and all of that stability being in a Black man. Oh my God, it's so injurious to his spirit. You can tell, right? Like, all the times on the campaign trail, he would get confused. Like, he couldn't even talk about President Biden. It would be Obama instead. Woo, my God, it's terrible. But you know what? It's not just terrible in a ha-ha terrible way. It's terrible like it's a sickness. It's terrible like it's insulting. It's terrible like it's dangerous and divisive and costly, not just to the Obama family, but to so many people, because this man who we have in office now, and all of his incendiary comments and all of his throwing around, it's all projection, right? He's a criminal, so everybody else got to be a criminal. He's treasonous and seditious, so now the former president got to be treasonous and seditious. It's like, whatever it is that is going on with him, he's like, I know I am, but what are you? I know you are, but what am I? You, and you, and you, and what about you, and what about you? It's sad, it's pathetic, it's juvenile, but it is also serious and dangerous. So this latest scheme, in order to divert attention from the fact that his name appears multiple times in the files of an adjudicated and found guilty pedophile, we're going to avoid that, right? We're going to avoid the fact that for years he campaigned off of and ginned up his base off of the Epstein files, because it was supposed to be liberals, progressives, left-leaning billionaires. That's who was supposed to be in the files. Of course, he found out a couple of months ago, nah, bruh, you you're in the files, which you should have known. You should have known you'd be in the files. Did you think you were so buddy with him that your name would be kept out of the files? Did you think that you still had the juice like that, where you could keep your name out of things, you could buy your way out, you could catch and kill your way out? You're finding out you can't, because once again, the Wall Street Journal, owned by Rupert Murdoch, is your undoing, sir. Mr. President Trump, sir. Your complete undoing. They said, take your lawsuit and shove it where the sun don't shine. So, in order to try to detract from that, let's see, what does my racist, wannabe supremacist, socially inferior base care about? What can they really get behind? Yes, let's slur the Black man, because if they can get behind something, they for sure can get behind slurring, scandalizing, insulting, disrespecting, accusing of criminality the first Black president of the United States. They can get behind that. But can they? What are you finding out, Mr. Trump, sir? Can they? I don't know. But anyway, Tulsi Gabbard gave it a good try last Friday. She stepped behind a podium and said some things that were lies, damn lies, nonsense, idiocy. I mean, she's the one who's like a known Russian puppet, like some sort of operative that nobody can prove, but everybody speaks publicly about it. She's some sort of asset. And for whatever reason, she's now heading a major part of our government in the United States. I wonder why Trump would do that. Donald, middle name Compromise Trump. So Gabbard gets behind a podium and says, based on a Minority Report, that President Obama and President Obama's team specifically misled with respect to the conclusions of the Russia interference in the 2016 election investigation, that they did something they weren't supposed to do, that they knew things that would have exonerated the current president, and that they didn't put it forward, and a thing, and it's all garbage. But don't take my word for it. Let's listen to a little bit of what CBS reporting has to say about the subject.
President Trump's Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, is accusing the Obama administration of manipulating an intelligence assessment about the 2016 election. The assessment in question was released on January 6th of 2017, 2 weeks ahead of President Trump's first inauguration. Now, it makes multiple statements about Russia's efforts to meddle in the election, but Director Gabbard has taken issue with one specific conclusion. The assessment found that Putin and the Russian government developed a clear preference for President-elect Trump. Yesterday, President Trump accused former President Barack Obama of treason. Our Ed O'Keefe asked Director Gabbard today about the possibility of criminal charges.
Based on what you now see, do you believe President Obama is guilty of treason?
I'm leaving the criminal charges to the Department of Justice. I'm not an attorney, but as I've said previously, when you look at the intent behind creating a fake manufactured intelligence document that directly contradicts multiple assessments that were created by the intelligence community, the expressed intent and what followed afterward can only be described as a years-long coup and a treasonous conspiracy.
CBS News White House reporter Aaron Navarro and CBS News intelligence and national security reporter Olivia Gavis joins us now. Thank you so much for being with us. Olivia, I'm going to start with you. Gabbard is specifically calling out this 2017 intel assessment. What have other assessments said about Russia's efforts to sway the election, and how do they compare with what Director Gabbard is now saying today?
Sure, Jerika. So as you say, the key focal point of the nearly 200 pages of documents that the DNI has released so far is this assessment that first put it all on paper in the final weeks of the Obama administration in 2017. And that the most disputed part of that assessment is this judgment: Putin and the Russian government aspired to help President-elect Trump's election chances. The materials that she released today were part of a report drafted by the Republican staff of the House Intelligence Committee in 2017. That staff included at the time Kash Patel, now the FBI director. And it questioned the analysis leading to that judgment of Putin's preferences. It includes a discussion, problematically, according to some, of highly sensitive raw intelligence shared by a human source working with the CIA about Putin's intentions. And it questions the motivations of that source, whether the source had an answer.
So keep it up though. Keep it up though, George, if you can. I just want to point out that what she's saying here is a point that people are missing. Whenever this administration does something that is unethical, that is unlawful, in order to get themselves out of a hole, it ultimately costs lives. So here we are with supposed super secret squirrel like type positions where their whole job is to keep America safe through intelligence, Director of National Intelligence, and to put at risk operatives and sources and methods in order to get the president out of a jam or in order to advance the interests of another country. It's deadly, it's dangerous. And so that's why I'm saying to you, this is something that we're talking about, because it's not just, oh, he's just insulting somebody again and he doesn't like black folks. No, it's he, through his people and through his own mouth, puts Americans at risk at home and abroad through any means they can use in order to get themselves out of a jam. Keep going for a little bit more, George.
Anti-Trump bias, and said that there should have been more sources relied upon in deriving, again, that judgment. But this is a question that has been reviewed by, and we can count them, the Senate Intelligence Committee with a voluminous bipartisan report, Special Counsel Robert Mueller, Special Counsel John Durham, and most recently the CIA under John Ratcliffe, President Trump's nominee to lead the agency. Not one of them changed anything fundamental about the assessment or even said anything about the credibility of the source. Meanwhile, disclosures like these have costs. We've talked to current and former officials in the intelligence world who say disclosures like these can have a chilling effect on any current or would-be intelligence sources, some of whom are risking their lives to give information to the U.S. government and now may be reconsidering.
All right, Olivia, I'm going to turn now to Aaron. I want you, if you could, Aaron, talk to us about the timing. Why release these documents now?
Jerika, our colleague Ed O'Keefe actually asked Gabbard the why now question, the what's actually new in this report given the past reports, and why she's amplifying it in such a way now. And I thought her answer, a bit of a non-answer, was revealing. She deflected, and she argued that the Intelligence Committee right now, the intelligence community, is not politicized. In the backdrop of all of this are continuing developments when it comes to stories about Jeffrey Epstein, ties allegedly to President Trump. The Wall Street Journal reported today that Trump was told by his Justice Department in May that his name is in files related to Jeffrey Epstein. The Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche told the Wall Street Journal they did make Trump aware of these findings, but reiterated nothing in the files warranted further investigation. Again, the mention of names in these files does not automatically designate wrongdoing. But the White House responded quickly to dispute the Wall Street Journal's reporting, saying that Trump kicked Epstein out of his Mar-a-Lago club years ago and called this story, quote, a continuation of fake news stories. You also saw President Trump yesterday in the Oval Office kind of have these long rants about.
So yeah, what I did to answer the fact that he was a pedophile is I kicked him out of my club a long time ago, years ago, after I invited him to my weddings and went to his functions and celebrated his birthdays. I was like, you can't come to my club anymore because you're not a good guy. Bad, boo on you. And what was discussed just there to me is the point. One, the timing, because the backdrop is this growing scandal, the scandal that will not die about the files that this White House and this president promised would be released until they figured out whose name was in the files. How stupid are they, though, to not think that they would be in the files? And two, that it's dangerous, that what they're doing is not just an attempted besmirch of character, but when you are from the Oval Office and from the bully pulpit of the White House and the executive branch saying that a prior president has committed treason, you have gone too far on top of the too far you had already gone. And I'm glad to see that the Congressional Black Caucus is taking a public position against this in the middle of everything else that's going on. It would be so easy for us. Frankly, it would have been easy for me to just act like this damn story does not exist and know that President Obama can handle himself. We shared on yesterday's show the statement that came out of his office, and where they frankly characterized much of what comes out of this White House as nonsense. But this being particularly disturbing nonsense, it being preposterous, it being ridiculous and untrue. But the Congressional Black Caucus is making a statement about it as well. And under the lead pen of Congresswoman Kamala Dove, they penned a letter calling for the resignation of Tulsi Gabbard. I think we've got that letter. Can put some of it up on the screen. I'm not going to read it all to you, but I want to show you that it is written to Tulsi Gabbard. I love that about us. We're like, no, I'm going to tell you to your face. I'm going to tell you about yourself to your face, because I don't want it to be confused like I wrote your boss about you, I told your friend about you. I'm asking you directly. And they address the document released that Gabbard claimed contained overwhelming evidence that Barack Obama and his cabinet manufactured and politicized evidence against President Trump. They say it's not only categorically false, it is dangerous and deliberate distortion of reality. As Director of National Intelligence, your job is to safeguard truth, not spread propaganda. Instead, you have abused your position to promote a partisan narrative rooted in conspiracy and discredited claims. I just want to remind y'all, this chick was a Democrat until, like, for real, 5 minutes ago. Like, remember, she was running for president of the United States. She was running for the Democratic nomination for president of the United States against when Joe Biden was running, when Kamala Harris was running. Like, she was running for office as a Democrat, and now this is what she's doing. They say this is not your first display of poor judgment, but it is your most egregious. And they are calling on her to resign immediately so that new leadership can begin the urgent work of restoring integrity, rebuilding trust, and upholding the nonpartisan mission of the intelligence community before even more damage is done. So the interesting part about what she's doing is she's leaning on a random minority subcommittee report when everybody else, in a bipartisan manner, including the Senate Intelligence Committee, issued investigative reports that did not in any way make the claims that she's making, or in any way disabuse us all of the facts and truth of what Russia's intent was, and the fact that they favored Donald Trump to win the election. It's just a fact. Like, that's what the intelligence was saying, and they didn't refute that. And the Senate Intelligence Committee was headed by one Senator, Marco Rubio, who now is Trump's Secretary of State. How bipartisan can you be? Can you get? So she's out there doing her compromise best. She's out there doing her best for herself, for her boss. I don't know for how many people. I don't know who they're working for. Maybe this is part of their pay for Putin. Not exactly sure. But if we could see the names of the people who signed it, members of the Congressional Black Caucus who signed it, calling for her resignation. Obviously, we all hope she resigns. We do. But the reason why I cover all this is because, one, it's important. Two, it's all happening while, FYI, while they're still trying to kill you. All of this is not just a distraction from Epstein and from the stuff that's going on in the files and from the fact that they are completely failing. Look at my prior videos. They're completely failing to deliver on any promise that they made to the American people who voted for them. It's not just to distract from that, it's to distract from the heist. Remember, this is all a grift. This is a heist to steal from people who need the money the most, to steal hundreds of millions, billions of dollars out of Medicaid, Medicare, to rob you of your health, to end up having to close clinics and hospitals, to make it harder for people to buy homes, to keep jobs, to advance in jobs. This nasty, ugly budget that they had to piece together in parts because they couldn't get the votes to do it the right way. They had to do that in the House and then in the Senate. And the entire purpose is to keep the Trump tax cuts from his prior administration, from Trump 1.0, to keep those tax cuts for the wealthy in place that were due to expire. And they did that by finding the money from other parts of government. They pulled from special education resources, which is something that's in Medicaid. They pulled from, well woman and delivery and postpartum resources in order to get it done. And there are many people right now who don't understand that it's happening because they're not feeling the effects yet. You see, part of what they did in this big deadly budget was make the release valve, the time when the cuts are triggered. A lot of them don't happen until after the 2026 midterm. Wonder why? Do you think the hope is that we'll all just be so asleep at the wheel? We'll all just be so dumb? We'll all just be so blind that we don't believe that anything is happening that's wrong because it hasn't hit our pocket yet? Do they really think that we are that dumb or that blind? I'm kind of hoping not, but it does seem kind of like they do. Hold on, there's a whole bunch of background noise here. Let me see what's happening. Life with kids. So there's an Axios story about this that I think is important. And I want you to be able to get this for yourself. It's, if you go to axios.com for July 7th, 2025, where they talk about Medicaid impacts on the tax bill and how they're delayed. And we'll read a little bit of it to you. I'm not going to read all of it, but it talks about how President Trump's tax and spending bill sets in motion nearly $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid and other health policy changes that could loom over the midterm elections. But the real effects likely won't be felt until well after the ballots are cast. Why does it matter? Despite negative polls, because his polls are going pew, none of the cuts are popular. It really isn't. And despite the headlines, bill supporters could be insulated from political blame by a slow drip of policy changes that will play out over the next decade. A contrast to when the GOP tried to repeal Obamacare in 2017. Go down a little bit, please, G. What's inside? Medicaid work requirements, which account for many of the nearly 12 million people projected to lose coverage under the bill, generally won't kick in until 2027. And some states could get extensions. Let's go down a little bit more. The bill also increases the frequency of Medicaid eligibility. The phase down of Medicaid provider taxes and state-directed payments, which states use to help fund their share of program costs, and which hospitals in particular have come to rely on for funding, only begins in 2028. The legislation's $930 billion cut to federal Medicaid funding will likely force states to make corresponding cuts to their programs or pick up a greater share of obligations, but those wouldn't take effect right away either. People covered through Affordable Care Act, exchanges will see changes more swiftly. Hello, hello. The bill does not extend the Biden-era enhanced premium subsidies, which are set to expire January 1st, 2026. The GOP-led Congress still can do so, but has shown zero, the article says little, I'll say zero, appetite so far. So here's the thing. Here's what they're hoping. They're hoping that this is going to be happening and that you're not going to feel the pain of it. They're hoping that they will have quite literally done a smash and grab. But because you ain't been to your car in a while, you're not going to realize your window's broken and the valuables are out of your glove box until you go down there and check. They did it in the middle of the night. The votes were quite literally in the middle of the night. So they now think that because they pushed back the execution date, and I use that word intentionally, that you're somehow going to miss it. That you're somehow going to be so asleep at the wheel that you're either not going to show up for the midterms, or people who voted for this and don't know, oh, it's hurting you, farmer. It's hurting you, mom, in the Midwest. It's hurting you, dad, working a blue collar job. It's hurting you wherever you are in this country with a child or multiple children with special needs. It's hurting all of you. It's hurting all of us. And they are hoping that we will not figure that out. And one of the things that people keep trying to point out to us is that even if you're not on Medicaid, you're going to be harmed by the cuts to Medicaid, because places that you're going, the clinic that you go to get services, the place where you go to take your children to get their therapies, the place where you go to get your own, maybe you have some disability insurance and you get therapy in a particular place that's close to your house, the hospital that you go to deliver your baby, all of those may not be there anymore because they were depending for their survival, for the ability to stay open. They were depending on Medicaid funding and providing services to people on Medicaid in addition to the services that they were offering you. You see, we're all are way more interconnected than we think. Recently, a couple of stories came out talking about the hospitals that would be affected. And I just want to show you that because you might not know who you are. You might not know who you are. Trump's budget is putting 338 rural hospitals at risk of closure or service cuts. You guys know how people are always talking about what's happening in rural America, like rural America is for Trump. Maybe they are. Now, urban America largely votes Democrat. Maybe they do. But this that's happening, rural, urban, blue, red, green, we're all in it together. Just want to show you some of the states, some of the hospitals. Woo! Alaska, do you see yourself there? Alabama, a place that where your leadership refused to be incentivized with the additional funding from Obamacare and is living to tell the horrid story about it. Arkansas. Hello, Colorado. Look at you, Florida. You got time to build Alcatraz, but you're losing rural hospitals. Even though you're not even technically rural, you're going to have hospital closures. My God, Indiana. Hey, Kansas. Look at this in Kentucky. Not good at all. Oh, Lord, Louisiana. Isn't it interesting, like the areas where the list's the longest are these red states that voted for the man to come in office and votes for the GOP members that happily agreed to this in order to put money in their pockets. Let's keep going. I see you, Mississippi. Oh my, North Carolina, Ohio, they're all on here. I'm not even naming the blue ones because we know we're getting hurt. My, Texas. I see you, Oklahoma. What an unfortunate, sad state of events. Washington State is disproportionately represented in this list, as is Virginia for the size of the state. So that's what's happening. That's where it is. And that's just predicted rural hospital closures or decreases in services, because the funds that they rely on to keep going, not just the services they provide, but the funds that they rely on from state to state to state in order to stay open. No, not there. Not going to be there. Will you let it happen without standing up and saying something about it? Will you let it happen without your voice being heard? Were you somebody who sat on your couch when the last election happened because you thought it didn't have anything to do with you, but you're learning different now? Or were you somebody maybe who voted out of frustration, maybe not out of racism, but out of frustration, hoping that you would get wealthier, not realizing that you're not nearly rich enough for any of these cuts to benefit you? Instead, you're a small to mid-sized business who's going to be harmed by the actions of this administration. Instead, inflation has continued rising and has forced you to shutter your business. Maybe you're out there as a government worker out in the world, but in a red state, and you didn't think, surely, Mr. President, you didn't mean to cut my job in Texas, except they did. Now is the time for you to wake up. And if you need more information about what's happening, thank God for the representatives that we have in Congress who are actually doing the work. If we could put up that flyer, there's going to be a town hall. There will be many things happening, but there's a teletown hall, which means you don't even have to get out of bed. You can call in from wherever you are, or you can watch. It's a teletown hall exposing the big ugly bill. The speakers are Representative Sidney Comlager-Dove and former U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services, Xavier Becerra, and I interviewed him any number of times. Completely knowledgeable person and good human. It's happening soon, because it's today, 6 p.m. Eastern. You can watch live on facebook.com/Rep Comlager-Dove. You can RSVP comlagerdove.house.gov/live. And I'm sure that there'll be a rebroadcast or something so that you can catch it. If you're not watching me live, and if you don't see this before it happens, so look that up, because they're going to be explaining what's happening. And if I know anything about my Congresswoman, she's not going to just be explaining it. She's going to be giving you some action steps. So this very day, choose ye this day who you will serve. Serve your own house is what I say. I don't have no scripture for that, but that's what I say. Do that by attending and getting the information that you need. So I think that's all we need to talk about for today. I hope so. I've been talking for a while. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for coming over. Please subscribe to the Monique Pressley channel. Please continue to support us. There are ways that you can support by giving through Cash App, through PayPal, or right here on YouTube by being in the super chat, or by just supporting us with whatever one-time monetary amount. We can't do this without you. This is independent media. There aren't any big backers. Rupert Murdoch is not making sure I stay on here, but we have a passion for ensuring that you get the information that you need, the time that you need it, so that you can live better informed, not just surviving, but thriving lives. But I gotta say, my focus right now is on survival, because so many, through the actions of this administration, have their very lives in jeopardy. And we want to make sure that nobody gets lost on our watch. People perish for the lack of knowledge. That's not mine, that's straight word. And I don't want that to happen. I don't want the lack of knowledge to happen when I could have told you something that could make a difference. And what you can do most immediately is tell somebody else. Clip this up to your heart's content and share it. Share the whole thing or share the part that you like the most. Tell them where they can come back for more information to help make it make sense. You can support us via PayPal, through Cash App, right here on YouTube, through sharing, and with your prayers. I would invite your prayers for our good success in helping people to help themselves by giving the tools that are necessary for success. Finally, the merch store is back open, y'all. People kept asking me. I made that statement that there would be those who would say it's like part of our cultural competency to know where Are You Pausing or Are You Finished came from. That's me modern day, just a few days ago wearing the shirt, but in my store, in my Shopify store, the shirts are back available. I only use a local store in order to sell them, and the local store I was using moved like the other side of the earth, but we're all back together now. So you can go to monique-pressley.myshopify.com in order to get that shirt. We've got some Make It Make Sense merch coming, and we've got some different colors for the Are You Pausing, Are You Finished shirt coming, and just some new fun, fresh things so that we can all be in community together while we make it make sense, while we pause and make sure the other folks are finished. See what I did there? I'll be back with you again tomorrow with more. And tomorrow's also the day that I am on Don Lemon's channel. If you're not following Don, where you been? Don Lemon Show channel. I have the Week with Monique over there, 2 p.m. on Fridays. So go have fun with us over there as well. And until then, stay safe out there.
And what I'm saying, are you pausing or are you finished?
I'm pausing.
Okay. So in your pause, what I am saying is...
Safe to say I'm the biggest, the largest. Been stepping up since my mama stayed in them apartments. Regardless, my daddy told me keep the heat even when I'm in foreigns. I'm heartless, cause these niggas is hating on me just because I'm the biggest, the largest, the biggest, the largest. 30K on my riches for hard times. These niggas just mad cause they...
Are you pausing or are you finished?